Hello everyone. Today we are starting with the study of lateral view of the skull or norma lateralis. First look at the bones which are seen from the lateral view. The bones are the nasal bone, maxilla, mandible, zygomatic bone, frontal bone, sphenoid bone, the temporal bone, parietal bone and the occipital bone. Some of the sutures which can also be seen from the lateral view are the coronal suture. This is the coronal suture, the squamosal suture and the lambdoid suture can also be seen from the lateral view. To have a very clear look, let us remove the mandible. Now the skull without the mandible is often referred as the cranium. So the frontal bone, some portion of the frontal bone, portion of zygomatic bone, parietal bone and the squamous temporal bone, these bones, they together form an area, something called as temporal fossa. This area is the temporal fossa. Now this is the zygomatic bone and this is the frontal bone. The zygomatic bone articulates with the frontal bone here at this tiny suture called as frontozygomatic suture. This suture is called as the frontozygomatic suture. This is the frontal process of the zygomatic bone and this is the zygomatic process of the frontal bone. Now if we follow the posterior edge of the frontal bone or this process, this zygomatic process of the frontal bone, if we follow the posterior edge of this process, there is a presence of line. Although this line is not very clearly seen in this model, might be because of the paint, but still the line is there. After moving a distance, it bifurcates into two, the superior one and the inferior one. The inferior one is called as the inferior temporal line. The inferior temporal line, it progresses posteriorly, then it compasses downwards and forwards, and it merges with the superior border of the zygomatic arch. This inferior temporal line, it marks the upper boundary of attachment of the temporalis muscle. The temporalis muscle, which is one of the muscle of mastication, is attached in this temporal fossa. The upper boundary is marked by the inferior temporal line. Another line, the superior temporal line, which is little bit higher to the inferior temporal line, it also compasses downwards and forwards and reach up to the supramastoid crest and the mastoid process. This superior temporal line, it also provides attachment for the temporalis fascia or the temporal fascia, which is a thick fascia protective in function. So it should be covering the temporalis muscle, right? So this is the inferior and the superior temporal line. These lines provide the upper and lower boundaries for the attachment of temporalis fascia and the temporalis muscle respectively. Right. Now the zygomatic process, the zygomatic bone, this is the zygomatic bone, it articulates with the temporal bone through this process called as the temporal process of the zygomatic bone, and this process is called as the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. These two processes articulate with each other at this tiny suture called as zygomaticotemporal suture. This suture is called as the zygomaticotemporal suture, forming this nice horizontal arch called as the zygomatic arch. Actually, the formation of zygomatic arch is also helped by this is the zygomatic process of the maxilla. This is the zygomatic process of the maxilla, the zygomatic bone and the zygomatic process of the temporal bone. They all together contributes to the formation of zygomatic arch. This is the U-shaped arch, zygomatic arch, right? Now if we follow the root of the zygomatic arch, at the root of the zygomatic arch, we can see a presence of fossa or depression. It's called as the glenoid fossa or the mandibular fossa. This is the area where the head of the condyle articulates with the cranium, forming the temporomandibular joint. Right. Just posterior to the glenoid fossa, there is a presence of auditory canal, also called as the external auditory meatus or the external acoustic meatus. The tympanic plate forms the anterior, inferior and the posterior borders. Inferior to the external acoustic meatus, there is a presence of long spike-like horny structure called as the styloid process. This is the styloid process. It comes in variable lengths. In this particular case, it is not that long. This styloid process, it provides attachment for the muscles like stylohyoid, styloglossus. Right. Now, posterior to the external acoustic meatus, we can see a presence of a bulky conical structure. This is called as the mastoid process. The name mastoid because of its disc-like appearance. Now, the mastoid process, it provides attachment for the muscles like occipitofrontalis, the occipital belly actually, occipital belly of the occipitofrontalis muscle, and also to some of the muscles of neck like splenius capitis and sternocleidomastoid. So this is the mastoid process. Now the temporal bone has 4 components. The squamous part of the temporal bone, this is the squamous part of the temporal bone. The squamous means flat. This is the flat portion of the temporal bone. This is the squamous part of the temporal bone with the zygomatic process of this temporal bone. The squamous part with the zygomatic process, the tympanic plate and the styloid process, also the mastoid process. These all are the components of the temporal bone. But the mastoid process is actually a downward prolongation of the petrous part of the temporal bone. These are the components of the squamous part of the temporal bone, but the mastoid process is the downward prolongation of the petrous part of the temporal bone. The petrous part of the temporal bone cannot be clearly seen from the lateral view. Right? So the mastoid process is also called as the petromastoid process because of its downward prolongation from the petrous part of the temporal bone. So this is the mastoid process. Posterior to the mastoid process, we can also see the union of these 3 bones, the temporal bone, parietal bone and the occipital bone. Here the temporal bone, this mastoid process, it articulates with the parietal bone at this parieto-mastoid suture. This is the parieto-mastoid suture. Also the mastoid process articulates with the occipital bone at this occipito-mastoid suture. This area where there is union of these 3 bones is called as the asterion because of its star-like appearance. The word asterion means starred appearance or the star-like appearance. So this is the asterion. We can also see another area where there is union of so many bones. At this area, the bones are in very close approximation to each other. Here the sphenoid bone, it articulates superiorly with the frontal bone. The sphenoid bone, it articulates anteriorly to the frontal bone and the zygomatic bone also, posteriorly to the squamous part of the temporal bone. This area is a capital H-shaped area called as pterion. This area is important from the clinical point of view because the fractures are very common in this region because the bony plates in this region are very thin. So the fractures are very common at this area whenever there is a lateral hit or trauma to the side of the head. Besides this, we can see, and if we can see the base of the skull, we can find a tiny foramen present at the base of the skull. This foramen is called as the foramen spinosum. Here is the foramen spinosum. Posterior to the foramen ovale is the foramen spinosum. The middle meningeal artery, which is the branch of maxillary artery, enters the cranium at the middle cranial fossa. Here, the foramen spinosum. The middle meningeal artery enters the cranium here through this foramen spinosum. Here we should remind one important note that the middle meningeal artery not only supplies the blood to the meninges, but also it supplies blood to the bones of the skull or the cranium. Right. After entering into the middle cranial fossa, the middle meningeal artery, it passes through the grooves. These are the grooves which are meant for the passage of the meningeal arteries. Here, at some point, at this point, here, the middle meningeal artery, it bifurcates into the anterior or the frontal branch and the posterior or the parietal branch. The anterior and the frontal branch, it travels further laterally through the middle cranial fossa. It travels further laterally. At this area, it actually passes through the tunnel. The groove is disappearing at this area because the artery tunnelizes the bone and it passes through the tunnel so as to continue, so as to travel superiorly through these grooves. If we closely see, this area is exactly opposite to the pterion. So, in case of any injury to the area or in case of any fracture to the bones, this might damage the middle meningeal artery, resulting into the intracranial bleeding or the extradural hematoma. So, the middle meningeal artery is very important artery which is present exactly opposite to the pterion. So, this is the very important area from the clinical point of view because of the vulnerability of these bony plates to fracture. Right? We can also see from the base of the sphenoid bone, the bony plates extend downwards. The two bony plates, these are called as the pterygoid plates or the pterygoid laminae. These are the pterygoid plates or the pterygoid laminae. Inferiorly, the pterygoid plates are articulating with the maxilla, but superiorly there is a narrow fissure. This fissure is called as the pterygomaxillary fissure. The posterior superior alveolar nerve passes through the pterygomaxillary fissure. The posterior superior alveolar nerve, it is a branch of maxillary division of the trigeminal nerve. So this nerve passes through the pterygomaxillary fissure. So these are some of the points which we are covering from in the lateral view of the skull. Thank you very much.